Ladies, I have a question for you. Have you ever thought of using a podcast to share your story of triumph? That's what I do, and that's what my guest does, and she can help anybody do this. But because it's Women's Achievement Month, this one's for the ladies. Next on the Brian Snow Show. The thing is, until you can erase 3 Februaries, shut up. Bang! Quality over quantity. LeBron has beaten some of the best competition in NBA history. He's the GOAT emoji. I will not cuss. I will not cuss. I will not swear. I will not swear.
Where sports is the base, life and fun are the results. This is the Brian Snow Show.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Brian Snow Show. And I have a very, very special guest. A guest who I may be contacting a little later because I need a little help. Let's go to California, and we talk to podcaster extraordinaire Julie Marty-Pearson. And she joins me right now. Good afternoon, my dear. How are you?
Hello, good morning to you from a late morning in California.
Where are you in Cali?
I am in Bakersfield. It's about 2 hours north of Los Angeles.
Ah, okay. And how's life out in California?
It's pretty good. It's a little warm today. We're actually supposed to get up to 92, which does not make me happy, but we'll go back down. Other than that, I am doing well and very happy to be here.
You originally from California?
I am. I'm actually born and raised here in Bakersfield, third generation on my mom's side. So we've been here well over 100 years.
Very good.
Probably why I can't get out.
Try to sneak out and they pull you back in. You're like, well,
Yep.
I get it. Oh man, when I saw your intro and I saw what you do, I said, oh hell, I have to have her on the show. So let me thank you again for coming on to the show today. This is going to be a fantastic time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm excited. I loved your intro of me, so it got me all revved up to go.
I did that off the top of my head also.
Then even more impressive.
Okay. Why is storytelling important for entrepreneurs and business owners?
This is something I wouldn't have had an answer for 5 years ago, but what I have learned since starting my own business is your story is your power. It's your power to connect, to bring people in, to make people learn who you are, get to know you. And people don't realize, I think, sometimes how much your story can be embedded in all the different ways in your business, whether it's an email marketing, a social media post, or a podcast. The stories are what people connect to. And I think that's a big reason why podcasting is so popular.
And I was just going to come to that. Podcasting has exploded in the last couple of years, especially since COVID came and went. COVID made the podcast number uptick quickly because nothing else to do, and you had to stay where you are, and you couldn't move or anything like that. If you try to go out, officials will bring you back in. But how powerful can a podcast be to share your story and embed it into everything? How powerful of a weapon can a podcast be?
Well, I would say for me personally, just my own experience connecting to others through stories is, there's a power in sharing your story because more than likely someone's been through it or been through a version of it. And so for me, storytelling is valuable, but also powerful because it's that connection. It's that line that connects all of us. we all talk about life before COVID and after COVID, right?
Mhm.
We all have that through line of experiencing the pandemic and what that felt like and how different the world was. And many of us made big changes after that because of
Mhm.
that time to think and reflect.
Yes.
And I think that's why podcasts also became so popular, because at the time there was a lot of uncertainty, which there is today too, but it was different. And
Yes.
we felt like podcasts were our way to connect with people that we couldn't connect with because we couldn't leave the house. So
Right.
it was that way for me. I admit, I was not a big podcast listener before COVID. I
Mhm.
worked busy jobs, commuted, and did all the things, and I'd listen to one once in a while.
Mhm.
But COVID really gave me that space to kind of listen, learn, and think, oh, this is kind of cool. Maybe I should do something like this.
What turned the light on for you to say, "You know what? I'm getting away from working a regular job and I'm going to pursue my passion." What was the straw that broke your back and said, "You know what? The hell with this. I'm going with it."
Well, I would say it started a little before COVID. A couple weeks after I turned 40, uh, pre-COVID, I was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease, and
Mm.
basically my lifestyle of stressful jobs, busy jobs. I actually commuted all over California to work at different universities. My body was saying, "This is not working for us." And, the 2 years after that, that led up to COVID, I tried it, I tried different things, and it still was like my body's like, "We can't keep doing this." And so I was actually unemployed when the pandemic hit because I had to quit my last job for a surgery, and, so for
Mhm.
almost perfect timing, because I was at that point of like, what is the rest of my life gonna look like?
Right.
Don't want it to look like that. I mean, I loved what I did. It just
Mhm.
not for me in terms of the amount of energy and time that I had to put into it.
I totally understand that because I was working remotely for a while living in North Carolina, and I thought it would be okay, but then my body said,
Mhm.
you're not doing this." I didn't listen. When I returned the equipment back to the company that I was working for, I drove back home and I said, "I'm going to try this again." Well, 2021 hit, and then I got smacked with blood clots in both my lungs.
Oh, no.
And then the serious uppercut after that was stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Ugh.
And my wife was looking up the numbers of the survival rate of men with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. I think she told me it was about 3 to 4% of men make it from that disease. I looked her in the eye and said, "I'm going to be one of the 3 or 4% that make it." So we moved back to Indiana, and I was on chemo at the time. And anybody that's been through cancer and been through chemo, it's awful. It's awful. It's a poison. I had to learn that. I had to learn that the hard way because I was taking it. I was taking oral chemo.
Mm.
It's poison. And the brain fog is very real. Very, very real. I mean, I still have times, even today, 4 years after that, I get the brain fog. I just sit here and I do nothing. And you've been through that. You just sit there like a bump on a log and you're wondering, what the hell do I do next? Well, after surgery, I made it through. I'm hosting my morning show 5 days a week. And then I got this show that I'm rebounding back. And you're one of my first guests after I took a break from doing it. So I love you for that. And thank you for believing in me and my show. And I'm about to cry. Don't just forgive me. With everything that's happened, including 2 toe amputations,
Mm.
I love being here and I love doing this. So we share that passion of the microphone being a powerful weapon. I always say about Stephen Curry, he took an anomaly and turned it into a weapon. Well, for a
Mhm.
long time before COVID, a microphone was an anomaly, but now it's a slow uptick. But now people are starting to turn it into a serious weapon.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. Well, I feel very honored to be here as coming back to the show. I think that all of what you just said is all about why I love podcasting. It's the power of podcasting. It's the power of story, the connection. I've never been through cancer, but I felt every word you just said. Like, that's the human connection, right? And
Mhm.
I've been through things in my life, although not cancer, but similar things where you lose parts of yourself, whether it's
Yeah.
physically or emotionally. And, the thing about humans is we keep going, but
Mhm.
sometimes we need something to let go of it, to process it, to help others. And that's what I've found in podcasting. It really is a way to process whatever you're going through. But I found a lot of people dealing with grief over, the loss of someone or a pet or a job or a marriage or a home or a part of you, literally your toes.
Mhm.
Um, and podcasting has helped them in some way to keep going or to get through it or to keep moving through it. And so when I say podcasting changed my life, I don't say that lightly. And pretty much everybody I've met who has a podcast or has had one, it's completely changed their life in some way.
Mhm.
But most importantly for me, what this is this connection. Like, would I have
Yeah.
met you ever if we hadn't connected to be on, the podcast together? Probably not. And so
Absolutely.
that's what keeps me going.
Mhm. Mhm.
um, but also what you talked about is funny. It was actually the first episode of my second podcast that I launched last year was talking about some of my own loss through health battles. And one of the things people don't know about is these are fake. These are not my real teeth. I lost all of my teeth at
Mhm.
32
Mhm.
from a decade of ignoring the signs of what the dry mouth from my autoimmune disease was doing to me.
Mhm.
And it was very hard at 32 to say, yeah, just take them all out because I'll
Right.
be healthier. And yes, you don't need your toe to function, to do
Right.
the things you do, but it's still a
Mhm.
part of you that was taken.
Yep.
And it wasn't until a friend of mine who I met through podcasting talked about her cancer and losing one of her eyes and
Mm.
how she had to grieve that it actually made me feel, oh, that's what happened to me. And I never realized what I went through, right?
Mhm.
Like, I was so happy to be on the other side of it and be healthy and look better and all the things that it was hearing her story made me think about my own. And I told her
Mhm.
that, and she was like, that's incredible because we had totally different things happen to us, but we still had that connection.
Yeah. Connections are very important. It's coming up on my anniversary of my surgery, it was April 4th, 2022. The day before, my wife and I drove to Indianapolis, had a great night together, had some dinner, watched some basketball because I am a sports fanatic. That's why I went into sportscasting. And then the day of the surgery, I will never forget, she put her arms around me and she said, "Are you ready?" I said, "I'm ready to kick cancer's ass once and for all." The surgery, according to folks, took a little longer than expected, and 5 organs were taken out of me. I'm still grieving from that. And here's the thing that people really don't understand about everything I've been through and why I'm asking for help. One, the state of Indiana won't give me any disability, even though I've been declared disabled. I was declared disabled July of 22. And secondly, there's a lot of people that don't believe that I went through this. Everything I described that I went through, from the blood clots to cancer to the amputation, all that within 3 years' time.
That's fast.
All that within 3 years' time. And there are days my body would just give out on me, and I would go to sleep. Now, I had to also spend 7 months in a wheelchair,
Mhm.
which took away my legs,
Right.
which took away my legs. Thankfully, I have my legs back. It's just a matter of me building up endurance,
Right.
and I don't have any patience. I want to get back out and help my wife and my family, um, with bills, and I'm gonna cry again. Getting everything connected. That's why I have this GoFundMe up. And if y'all can help in any way, help me get my car repaired so I can get back on the road, and especially with me having the clearance to broadcast Columbus East, um, events at Columbus East Sports in Columbus, Indiana. Um, anything would help. And also, I got the big GoFundMe I got going on is for the Snowman Stadium tour, because my wife, after I got back from after I came out of surgery, my wife gave me a wonderful idea. She said, "Let's get an RV, and we can go see every stadium that you want to see." And I want to add something. I want to add something to that, and I'd love to be a guest on your podcast very soon. Matter of fact, I might just say, "Hey, be my agent and get me on some podcasts so I can share my story."
I love
Um,
it. Oh my
I,
gosh.
I'd like. I mean every word of that. As I'm sitting here shaking right now.
Mhm.
Um, I've said on my other podcast, Diary of a Mad Snowman, there are two things you can take away from a man to really, really spear him: take away his family, or take away the ability to provide for his family.
Yep.
You take those two things away, and a man would just be crushed. That was me 3 years ago, because I thought it was it. Even after this, even after the surgery, I wasn't taking care of myself, and my wife kept jumping on me, and I'm glad she did. Saying, "You got to take care of yourself. I can't do everything."
Right.
That gave me the nerve to keep fighting. And were it not for were it not for my daughter Sonia and my wife Jody, oh my God, I wouldn't be here. I would not be here today without them pushing as hard as I can, working as hard as I can, even though I'm sitting behind a desk, getting as much done as I can. You talked about the connection with people. How important is that on and off mic?
Mm. So important.
Mhm.
But, it's different in different aspects. One of the things I found though in business and podcasting, whatever, is community is that thing that we all need to keep going. Because
Yeah.
community, whether it's your family, your friends, your coworkers, your colleagues, your clients, listeners, whatever it is,
Mhm.
they're the ones that will give you a little nudge when you don't even know you need it. Like you were just
Yep.
talking about with your wife and your daughter. I was thinking about my own dad when he got into the last years of his life and he couldn't walk on his own anymore and he had to use a walker.
Mhm.
That he couldn't do some of the little things that he did around the house, like make my mom lunch or
Mhm.
do a load of laundry. And that was so hard for him because he was always the man that it didn't know whatever it needed to be done, he would do it. He didn't care if it
Yep.
was cleaning a toilet or, working two jobs or whatever.
Yep.
And I just remember how hard that was for him. And we'd be like, no, you don't have the energy. We'd try, but I don't think I realized at the time that was a big part of himself he was losing.
Mhm.
That was very difficult for him, and I've
Yeah.
also seen it with my own husband when he's lost jobs or things like that. Like, when you can't provide and do the thing you do, you feel like you're less valuable or whatever you
Mhm.
wanna say, which you are not, but our brain tells us, "You should
Yeah.
be doing this. You should be doing that. Why can't
It,
you?"
I can't tell you how many times and how many days I felt like a complete failure to my family and to myself. And I kept saying, "There's no way. There's just no way." And I was just there are days I'm just so overwhelmed with everything that's happening and everything that's going on during the course of the recovery. And it's crazy to realize that all this happened within 3 years time. We're approaching three and a half years. I got the greatest news ever when my doctor told me in February of 23 that I'm in remission.
Mm.
I jumped up and down and danced like a fool. I can't dance worth a lick. I'm not gonna lie about that, but I jumped up and down, spiked a football like I was spiking a football, and I danced like a fool. But now it's the recovery
Right.
that and you've seen it. It tests your patience. Does it
Oh,
not?
yes, because those of us that are frustrated by not being able to do the thing are usually the one that do too many things at once. So it's
Mhm.
that part of us that says, "Why can't I just do it?" Because it's like what we need to do for ourselves or whatever it is. And I remember after my uh surgery in 2019, there was a moment where I was doing something I was so frustrated. I was, just mad at the world something wasn't working. And my husband came over to me and was like, "Why are you doing that? You can't do what
Mhm.
you're trying to do with what you have." And I just looked at him like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "Are you okay?" And it was kind of this fog, right? It's the
Yes.
brain fog,
Yeah.
it's your body not moving the way you need it
Yes.
to. It's all the negativity in your head that I was like, "What do you mean?" It wasn't until he said that and I kind of stopped and looked and went, "Why am I trying to do this? This doesn't even work." Like, you
Right.
get in this space where every little thing is hard. I think
Mhm.
that's what's so hard for people with chronic illness, any kind of illness, cancer, surgery. There's that part of you that knows, I used to be able to do this so easily. Why can't I now? And then you question, like, what's wrong with me? What did I do
Yep.
wrong?
Yep.
All that negativity to
Mhm.
say that you could be going through all that. And I look at you and you look normal, quote. You never
Mhm.
know what people are battling on the inside, right? And a lot
Absolutely
of
right.
times that's us battling ourselves,
Mhm.
which is the hardest one.
It's such a mental fight. That's the best way I can put it. It's
Right.
such a mental fight when parts of your body or parts of your nerve are being taken away from you, and you
Right.
try so hard to hold on and get that nerve back, but it's gone for a while.
Right.
And as we both talked about, the brain fog is quite real.
You
And
know,
there are days, even today, even 3 years, 3.5 years later, there are days I sit here and there's a fog going on, and I don't know what the hell to do next until I find that breakthrough point. And when I find that breakthrough point, now it's like, okay, let's spin the wheels, let's get rid of the fog, and let's get back to business.
right.
Man, I came in here one night. I was excited to do a game because I do alternative play by play while I'm getting reps in and getting ready for this coming fall. Um, I came in here, I had my notes, I was ready to do the game, and then I sat here, I looked at everything, and I said I couldn't do it. I stepped back and I shut it down. I told my wife that, and my wife says, why'd you shut it down? It was a game you were looking forward to. I flat out told her, I don't think I can do it anymore.
Mm.
She said, "Oh, yes, you can." She made a joke about it that got me laughing, that got me back doing it. She says, "You may drive me nuts with it, but I love listening to you."
I love
And she
that.
said, especially when you do football. My wife is a Colts fan. I'm a 49er fan.
Oh,
And yeah, yeah, it's like she always teases me. She always zings me when I do Colts games, and I love every bit of it.
right.
Is do
So
you
that's
find
probably your favorite part of the whole thing is the banter with her.
is it the banter with someone you love while you're
Mhm.
doing podcasting? Does that give you a push, give you more nerve and more energy to keep going?
Yeah, I get it. I have in my head, oh, great, I have time. I could do this, I could do that. And I sit down, I'm like, oh, I don't feel like doing anything.
Right.
Nobody's listening. Nobody cares. Who cares? I
Yep.
don't care anymore.
Yep.
That spiral. I think especially us who I call us indie podcasters. We are not being paid to do this. We don't have a big team
Right.
behind us.
Eh, eh,
It's us sharing something
mm.
we love with others.
It's us against the world. That's the
Yep.
motto for my wife and I. It's us against the world when you don't have, like you said, a superior production team, a superior studio. It's in your own home, and you just grab the parts that you can and you try to put everything together. Then you look at other podcasts and you get insanely jealous. I'll say
Right.
it. You get insanely jealous because you see their production and you're like, why won't they look at me that way?
And let me tell you, I was a little imposter syndrome watching your opener and the video effects. I'm like, geez, I just like overlay a photo. I feel really, I think what I found, because podcasting is so big, which means people can do it in so many ways, you'll see somebody doing it in a way you aren't, and you're like, God, why am I not doing that? Well, that maybe
Right.
that's not my way, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yeah, imposter syndrome, I have found as a podcaster, is one of the biggest challenges for myself
Yes.
and others.
Mhm.
But also, I learned early on, because I thought I was going to start a podcast about career coaching, but never
Mhm.
went anywhere. Well, because I didn't care. It wasn't exciting. It didn't keep me going. So I stopped and started one about pets for fun, just to see if I even like it. And 3 years later, that pet podcast is still going because it is my passion, because I want to help animals. I want to help educate people, all those things. And yeah, I don't have huge downloads, but it's made a difference for someone. And I have people connect with me from all over the world that are listening to it. For some reason, I was really big in Pakistan recently. I see those little things pop up and I go, gosh, I don't know why they're listening or what it is for them,
Mhm.
but it's opened this world to me that I didn't even realize you could tap into as just a normal everyday person, right?
Mhm.
People with mics were news anchors and talk show hosts and celebrities. And the fact that I have a mic and I use it
Mhm.
on a daily basis, I wouldn't have believed if you told me that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But all of that to say, it's the power of podcasting, the connections we build. The interviewing is my favorite part, no matter what I'm talking about, because
Mhm.
it's the banter, it's the connection, it's the learning from each other and feeling like, oh my God, you get it. Your life looks totally different than mine, but you still get it. You still get what I'm talking about, why we do this, why we help people. And so if it's sports that keeps you going, or pets like me, or,
Mhm.
I don't know, whatever else there is. My husband's a carpenter. Maybe he wants to listen to a carpenter podcast. I don't really know how that would work, but you can do anything.
You're
And now
right.
I have this visual of my husband with the mic hammering something and describing it to people.
My wife and I have often talked about doing a podcast together. And I've asked my friends, I said, if I did, I was on my morning show actually, and I had a big audience. And I said, if you would like a podcast featuring Jody and myself, put a one in the chat. Oh boy. The response was crazy. I said, yeah, we want to hear the banter between you two because we just hear it when you do Colts games. And it's one of the rules of one of the 5 rules of the household. And it's we came up with these rules because we had so much negative happen to us before we got together. And I just said, you know what, we're gonna own it and we're gonna turn it into a joke and turn it into a trampoline and bounce back. One of the rules is the answer is always the Colts. Jody zinged me one day, top of the summer one year. My friend Cole and I, who was my co-host at the time, were talking about the Stanley Cup Finals. And I said to him, who do you think's going to win the Stanley Cup Finals? My wife walks by, leans in and goes, it's the Colts. Who else? Lost it. When you have moments like that on a podcast, those improvisational moments,
Mm-hmm.
how does that make you feel? How does that feel to you and for you?
Mm. Sometimes it's sadness I get overwhelmed with, like listening to a story that breaks my heart and wish I could have helped someone. Or
Mhm.
it's this connection of, oh, you get it. You get why my cat is my person, or whatever whatever that thing
Right.
is. And even, yeah, I've met people and had these crazy conversations like, how do we not know each other? Like, you could be my best friend or whatever it
Right.
is. There's just,
Right.
you feel this pull, and it's funny. So I go to Podfest, which is a big in-person podcast conference. This was only
Next
my
year,
second
my wife and
year.
I have a goal. Next year, my
Yes.
wife and I will be at Podfest. That's a
And
goal.
You will be,
Mhm.
because what I have coined it for myself is it's like my family reunion. It's like the place and time where I know most of my podcaster friends are going to be in person. And
Mhm.
you just, the first year I went, I was like, oh, wow, this is what it's like to be around people in person again, right? We hadn't
Yes.
really done it a lot. And
Mhm.
podcasting, we love that we don't have to, we could do it all virtual. But
Yep.
it was that connection with people. And like they're all doing different things. Like I have a
Yeah.
friend with a sustainability podcast, one with a cricket podcast about like creating things, and people who do their business, all the different things, but we're all there for the same reason of growing and learning, but tapping into that community, that kind of hive of people we have in
Mhm.
podcasting. And it doesn't matter how big it gets, how much it grows. There's still that like nucleus that I have found in podcasting where everybody's positive, wants to help each other, wants to support each other, wants to be on each other's podcasts, create more new
Yes.
ones. I
Mhm.
think every
Yep.
podcaster has at least 5 other podcast ideas in their head at any given time.
Guilty. Guilty as charged. I got about 6 or 7 in my head right now. One
Mhm.
featuring my wife and I, and one featuring my daughters,
Mhm.
Cheyenne and Carmen. And my daughter Cheyenne wants a podcast of her own, and she wants me to
Right.
produce it. And we haven't come up with a title yet. And I said, honey, whenever you come over and you have some time, we're recording that first episode, and I'm going to make some clips and distribute it. Man, I can't tell you how many ideas for podcasts I have in my head.
Right.
And as
I've
I'll
even
say,
started a few and then it never went anywhere, and I went, "Okay, well, I don't wanna do that right now."
exactly.
But I love
Yes.
getting your daughters involved because at Podfest, I met in 2 different situations, I met young kids who were podcasting with their one of
Mhm.
their parents. And
Mhm.
just the connection and the power that not only to share that, but then you have that bond with your child.
Yep.
I mean, I can only imagine how powerful that would be. For me, it's just my cats at this point. They come in when they want. They're not very amenable to my schedule, but we make it work. But
I
I
have
think for me, especially as a woman, I've realized that women, we hold all these stories, but we don't share them. Like we're very guarded. We've been taught to be guarded, or we've just experienced negativity. And so I'm like, is there any way I can help another woman share something, whatever it is, and that could be 10 million different things. But I realize I've been through things that I wish I'd had women tell me what to expect. It's okay, whatever those things are, right? And I think a lot of us felt that in COVID in different ways.
Mhm.
So for me, that's what it gets back to the story. There's so much power in it, and we're often manipulated by story and emotion and things that happen to people, that we all have something in us that we can use to
Mhm.
get people to listen, get people to buy, get people to follow us, whatever that thing is. But it's not always easy. Like, trust me, I didn't think that I would record my first episode of a podcast about losing my teeth and the fact that I've worn dentures for, a
Mhm.
decade,
Mhm.
because it's something that was very hard for me to talk about it. Like there was only
Right.
a select few people that knew what was going on when I went through that surgery and post recovery. And I would find out someone said something to someone else and I would get upset. Like, this is my story. You don't get to tell it to other people, you know? And
Mhm.
so going into podcasting has helped me really kind of look back and realize some of what I went through and why it happened the way it did, but also get to like, oh yeah, I can just talk about it and release it and not
Yeah. And
onto
that
it.
Mhm.
And lately, especially the last few months, there's been a lot of grief and loss around me. I had 4 friends within 2 weeks lose a parent. And I lost one of my parents 7 years ago. So then of course it's triggering me, but also feeling bad for them. And I just realized we all have there's so much loss and grief and negative in the world that sometimes just sharing that story is gonna take a weight off of someone. Or I'm happy that I've experienced something that I can help them. Like, it's okay, that's normal. It's okay to feel this way. It's okay to ask yourself, why didn't I do more? Whatever it is, because I've been there. But then it also brings up all those questions again for myself. Like, did I spend enough time with it at the end? Why did it happen this way? So anyone like you who's gone through cancer, you go through that range of emotions on a daily basis
Hmm.
because of what your body's going through, but you're seeing your family go through. And so I don't know what it is. The universe is telling me maybe I need to start another podcast about grief or do
Hmm.
some kind of support with that because, it doesn't cost me anything to support someone else. Right. And
Hmm.
that's what I tried to do with my podcast. But we also have to kind of, do that for people in life. Like,
Yes.
give each other a break, a space. Like, no one's
Hmm.
perfect. Everybody's going through something. Don't act like you're on an island of misery because you're not. We're all there with you.
Yeah. I mean, that was, I can't tell you how many times I let myself be on the island of misery, going through everything that's going on right now. I would just see my wife struggling and being overwhelmed. It's like I want to do something and I want to do it quick, but can't.
Right.
I can't. And you find yourself on the island of misery, as you said, but you have to realize, and there are some days I got to have the message hammered home to me. Let me be totally, totally real, that I'm not alone.
Right.
My wife would ask me, um, are you, is there something I can do for you? You know what she does to keep me going? She makes me laugh.
Mm,
How important, and I got to ask this because I've asked all of my guests this question and they really get into it. How important is laughter
mm.
when you're going through so much?
There's a reason there's a saying laughter is the best medicine.
Mhm.
And I can say, for one, as someone who's been married, we're celebrating 20 years in June. Laughter
No,
has gotten us through a lot of hard spots.
I get it.
And luckily, my husband and I make each other laugh pretty easily. And then
Mhm.
people will hear us and be like, "Why did you say that?" I go, "You don't get it. It's our thing. Just don't worry about it." But also, like, I can even remember there were moments, like, in the few weeks after my dad passed where, you're in the grief, you're planning, you're telling people, you're doing the paperwork, and we would be going through photos, or we found an old tape of him where he had hosted a radio show for a day way back, like, in the 70s. We found a cassette tape. We had to buy on Amazon a cassette player so we could listen to it.
Yes.
And, the range of emotion, but the laughter and hearing him talk and what he said and how he sounded, like that was healing for us. There has to be laughter because
Mhm.
without that, we can't move past it. But yeah, laughter
Right.
is important. And I find that with my guests on my own shows, we laugh, sometimes cry, sometimes get frustrated or angry together. But all
Yep.
of those emotions, that
Yep.
sharing is important and it connects us in a deeper way.
Mhm.
But yeah, you got to be able to laugh at yourself. You got to be able to laugh at the world. I am
Mhm.
learning to laugh at stupid because you can't argue with stupid, so you might as well just laugh at them.
Right. You might as well just laugh. That is so that has been one of my things. I said, if I can make somebody laugh, I've had a good day. And
Mhm.
thankfully, that streak is still alive. And it's fun for me to make people laugh, especially when I'm in front of this microphone.
Right.
And, I've been asked, um, why don't you have a specific list of questions?
Mm.
And I asked this to my wife, and she says, that's just your style. You
Right.
find a point and you go.
Yep.
I've had Super Bowl champions on the show. I've had Super Bowl participants on the show. I've had NBA announcers, NFL announcers. In fact, I got a surprise one day. I know podcasters have done this. You want to reach out to someone that's been an idol of yours, and you want to ask them, "Can you come on my show?" And you're thinking, "Is he really going to come on my small podcast?" I don't know if that's going to happen. I know I'm sparking some memories out here because I know a lot of podcasters and radio hosts like myself went through it. I sent a message to Wayne Larrivee, who is the voice of the Green Bay Packers.
Mm.
I met him in 2013 at Hinkle Fieldhouse. And I said, the hell with it. I'll try it. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I'll try it. Yeah. 30 seconds later, I get a response. When do you want to do it? I sat straight up in bed. I was almost asleep when I got the alert. I sat straight up in bed as well. It was a Wednesday night. I sat straight up in bed. I said, "Can you do this tomorrow?" He said, "Send the link and the time."
Wow.
I didn't know if he would confirm or not
Right.
until we were about to go to a break and I saw him pop in. And then I said to the audience, "I'm going to call an audible because someone special just dropped by." And I did the interview with Wayne Larrabee, and it was so much fun just to be able to talk to him and everything else. But it that was one of your wow moments since you've been a podcaster.
Hmm. I would say one of them was this year at Podfest. I was walking around the expo hall and just, checking things out, and walked up to someone. We started talking, and I said, "Oh, well, I have a pet podcast." And he goes, "Oh yeah, I know. I follow you." And it was just like, what? It's those little moments of people saying, "I know you," or "I want to listen to your podcast," or "I do this." And I think those are the moments that are like, "Oh, okay, so it is going somewhere. It's not going out to a void." But also, one of the first classes I took about podcasting, they had us write down like our dream top 10 list of guests. And obviously that changes depending on what you're talking about. But
Hmm.
I realized that it doesn't hurt you anything to reach out to someone and just say, "Hey, would you like to?" I mean, if they don't
Okay.
respond, they don't.
Hmm.
So I think people should just take those leaps. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's been like one person or guest. I mean, I'm always surprised when people reach out from all over the world,
Hmm.
but I think for me, one of those big moments was someone who reached out to me who had an idea for a podcast about dogs, about soul
Hmm.
dogs, like talking about your soul dog. And her
Yeah.
coach had told her, "No one's going to listen to that. No one wants to listen to a podcast about dead dogs." Basically told her not to do it. Then she
Hmm.
came across my pet podcast and said, "Oh, wait, she might get it." And I was like, "Yeah, I get it. I get
Hmm.
it. People will listen. Trust me. One thing I've learned, everyone wants to talk about pets or animals in some way."
Right.
And then I got to be her first episode talking about my soul dog from my childhood.
Hmm.
And so I think that was one of those moments for me that it wasn't some big name or anything, but it was
Hmm.
someone who heard what I said, who felt connected to me, felt seen,
Yep.
felt understand. And
Hmm.
I helped her launch that podcast. And it's out there now in the world, and people get to share their stories there. And especially with pets, when you've lost them, sharing stories about them is a really great way to not only honor them, but to help you process that grief.
Hmm.
So I think that moment was kind of full circle for me of all the questions of, why am I doing this? No one's
Hmm.
listening. Does it
Hmm.
matter? Well, I realized it actually does matter, and it mattered in a way that was really impactful for one person. And that was enough for me to keep going, because who knows who else could be listening to it? Who knows who could be
Correct.
listening to this conversation
Hmm.
saying, "Oh, all the negative." It's like, well, if you can, after battling cancer, be sitting here and doing it, anybody can. Like,
Hmm.
yes, it takes energy and time and all those things, but people make it harder than it is. And if you really want it and it's really something that you're passionate about, then just do it,
Yep.
because there's probably going to be someone else who is and is looking for a place to connect.
You heard the lady, folks, especially women out there. Just do it, just like we did today. This is Julie Marty-Pearson. Wonderful, wonderful lady. And y'all, and I am on record in saying, please help me. I need it because something is not working. I've had other people offer to help, but they and not just holding my hand and walking me through it. No, I mean just help getting it out there because this is my job now. This is my 9 to 5. This is what I do, and I need some help. Let me just go ahead and say it. I need some help, man, because the podcast world, as you know, is very crazy.
Hmm.
And when you reach out and ask someone for help, it seems like they look at you and they go, "Why are you asking me? You're a podcaster. You can figure it out." It, am I preaching to the choir here?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's either that or they're super helpful and like, yeah. But yeah, there is
Mhm.
always this, you're a podcaster, you should get it. It's like, no, not everybody gets all 10 things.
Right. Right.
Like, you're live streaming. I don't know how to do that well. I have never done it. I've always recorded and edited. So
Mhm.
we all know something, and we should be helping other people,
Yeah.
because me helping you with your show, or your show about sports, doesn't do anything to take away me helping about my shows about pets and women and all these things, right?
Mhm.
So that's why I love guesting, because it's a great way to connect with people and then have mutual shared space for each other.
Absolutely.
So if you want to be successful as an indie podcaster, as a small unknown podcaster, it's all about your community. It's all about supporting others, because that will then return to you in some way. That is what I have learned in my own journey. And there are times you want to give up. There are times you think nobody's listening. Nobody cares. Why am
Mhm.
I doing this? Why am I
Mhm.
spending my money and my time on it?
Right.
But it's a long game, and I'm always honest with people. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
Anybody who shows you big downloads and big money, either they have a team or it took them years to do that. There's no overnight
Yeah.
success.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you can't be successful
Mhm.
and grow a podcast or community or business or whatever you want, right? It's
Absolutely.
about putting yourself out there. And this is where the storytelling comes back, is if you show up authentically as you, you're going to naturally attract people to that.
Mhm.
Just like we both shared stories about ourselves that I never thought I'd ever tell anybody, let alone on a live podcast.
Right. This has been such a wonderful, wonderful interview. I want to thank you very, very much, my dear, for coming on today, and lots of love to you and your husband and your podcast empire that you're going to build. And my wife and I
Yes.
will see you at Podfest next year. I'm putting it out there.
Yes. We will.
Yes, we will see each other at podcasts, just like people will see me at Levi Stadium covering the Super Bowl next February.
Woo!
I'm
Ooh.
putting that out there, and no one believes I can do it. All I say is, watch this. I say it for myself. I say it for Julie, and I say it for all the women that want to share stories but don't know how. You know, we'll help you. Julie
Yes,
will
we
very
will.
much help you. We'll help you. I can help with production, anything that you guys need. It's just you gotta not be scared to put everything out there. Julie, I thank you, my dear, very, very much. This has been a blast. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel so like you're my old friend now. And which means you won't be able to get rid of me, and we will definitely be working
That's
together in the future.
salute to you. Thank you, my dear.
Thank you for tuning into The Brian Snow Show, where sports is the base, life and fun are the results.